Okay, so 1918, John Calvin's born. Do you realize what's happening in 1918?
War.
World War I is being fought at that time. When John Calvin is 2 years old, the 19th Amendment is passed. That gave you ladies suffrage. Thank you. I thought I'd throw that in. Thank you very much. Also in 1920, Al Capone's around. You remember him? Real nice guy. 1921, first Miss America pageant is held in New Jersey. 16-year-old wins it. The Teapot Dome scandal. Here's something you didn't like. When you were 6 years old in 1924, Prohibition was enacted. You remember your father used to have to sneak out to the barn, and your mother would run him out there, wouldn't let him drink in the house. That's right. In 1927, Charles Lindbergh flies the Spirit of St. Louis across the Atlantic, non-stop. That now hangs in the Smithsonian. If you ever get to Washington, right there. Let's see, how old would you be? Around 1925, 1926, John Calvin starts going to school. He walks. There is no bus. He walks one way every day, 4 miles, with his brother and his sister. Rain, shine, sleet, or snow. He walks. Did you ever skip school?
No.
How old were you when you got the school bus? Did you ever get a school bus?
That came after I finished.
1929, you would have been 11 years old. St. Valentine's Day Massacre occurs in Chicago, if you like mobster history. And the great stock market crash, which sent everything into a tizzy. 1930, Empire State Building is built. 1930, the Great Depression begins. Now, once asked John Calvin about the Great Depression, and being from Mississippi, he knew nothing about what I was talking about. Which is a great thing about being depressed already. 1933, you would have been 15. What was the drinking age in 1933?
I don't remember.
Prohibition is repealed. The New Deal, FDR starts. And TVA is founded, which we still use today for electricity, cheap electricity. All right, 1935, the Dust Bowl. 1936, I don't have anything. 1937, John Calvin graduates high school. 1937, that's the year my dad is born. He graduates high school. 1939, his father couldn't figure out what to do with him because John Calvin was not a farmer. So he decided he would put him in the government. And so in 1939, John Calvin moves to Carroll County, Carrollton, Mississippi, where he worked for the Department of Agriculture, I believe. 1941, John Calvin moves to Washington before December 7th. And he is in Washington when Pearl Harbor happens. What do you remember about Pearl Harbor?
I just remember it being announced on the radio, and I just remember it all. I don't remember too much about it except that it was going on.
John Calvin once took me when I was in Washington with him to see his first home in Washington, and we almost got killed. Remember that guy washing our windshield? Never mind. 1940. It's a far cry from Houston. 1940. Holocaust begins. You know when you date that starting. 1945, Jackie Robinson enters baseball. The atomic bomb is dropped. VE Day, VJ Day. What do you remember about the end of World War II?
I remember it happened.
1950, Korean War. 1952, John Calvin finally gets married. 32, 34 years old. The only reason he got married is because his good friend Nate Benson told him he should get married. And it was a nice lady from the Episcopal Church. Wasn't it the Episcopal Church?
Lutheran.
Excuse me, Lutheran. That's close. All right, 1953, first color television. 1959, John Calvin's wife passes. 1961, first man in space. You got to see that. It's a Russian. 1961. 1962, we got the Watts riots. We've got the JFK assassination. Where were you when JFK was shot?
I was before in the office.
1964, the Civil Rights Act. 1965, Vietnam War begins. 1967, the first Super Bowl is played. 1968, MLK is shot. Riots in Washington, if I remember right. The Tet Offensive, 1969. Woodstock. What do you remember about Woodstock? 1971, I'm born. 1973, there's a gas shortage. 1976, America's 200th birthday. We buried a time capsule on the square. I barely remember that as a child. Some of you remember that. All right, getting into my age right here. 1977, disco. All right. 1978, Jonestown Massacre. 1979, 3 Mile Island, the Iran hostage crisis. 1981, John Paul II is shot. 1980s, Ronald Reagan. When did you retire from federal service?
I've forgotten.
80s?
I've forgotten.
Somewhere in this timeline, he's going to retire, and he will work another 10 years for Arlington County. And then you will return to Mississippi in 89. So he retires roughly around 1980 and returns here around 1989. 1987, Crash Stock. 1989, Tiananmen Square. John Calvin returns to Houston. Reportedly right now, if I could digress for just a minute, after the death of Frances Louise Medlin, if any of y'all remember her, John Calvin is still now the largest recipient of mail in Houston, Mississippi, after the death of Miss Medlin. And he still has yet to win the Publishers Clearinghouse, which $1 million isn't what it used to be. 1992, I'll skip ahead. LA riots happened. 1993, Bill Clinton's elected. 1995, the Oklahoma City bombing. All this is happening in Houston. 1999, Columbine. The Y2K crisis. Y'all remember Y2K? 2001, 9/11 happens. 2002, the DC sniper. And in 2007, the iPhone is invented. That's right. That's right. And John Calvin has yet to either own a cell phone send a text message or anything like that. Did you ever work on a computer? That's what happens in 100 years, ladies and gentlemen, and that's what you get to see in 100 years. We can only hope, we can all only hope that we have a fraction of John Calvin's health if we make it to 100, if we make it to 80, if we make it to 85. What is the secret to living so long?
It's all in God's hands. I had nothing to do with it.
And some good genes. Right there.
I guess.
Ladies and gentlemen, the most remarkable Houstonian in a long time, Mr. John Enix Calvin.